All right, we're live. I think we're live in multiple places, and I'm blonde, so I have an excuse for getting everything wrong. But we are also on Utreon, and I don't think I've talked about Utreon with you, Allison, but I put a link in the chat just now. Anybody who wants to say, "Hey, I want to try another platform," we're also on Utreon. I've been on Utreon now for almost a year. I mean, I've
Hmm.
had it a while, and honestly, it's a smaller platform, so I haven't paid as much attention. And the CEO has asked for me to, check out their new live streaming and to push a little bit of traffic their way, which is, awesome. I love the competition. And they're doing something different because Allison is also on Utreon. And
Yes, I am. I am.
I think Allison and I were using it for the same purpose. When my channel was completely nuked on Valentine's Day, 100% of my content was still available on Utreon because it's always syncing over there. So it is very comforting to have somewhere that I can point people saying, "Wait a minute, YouTube pulled that episode that's offending you. Uh, look at it. Is that offensive? Hey, team,
Right.
what's going on?" But in fairness, Utreon's trying to build a platform. They're trying to do cool things. They actually have a super chat type of option. I don't know what they call it, but they've got a chat. They accept donations. They're doing all of this. And even more cool, Allison and I are doing a show together. Since we are both on Utreon, I noted that I'm collaborating with Allison. So anything that's given to us on Utreon will go to us 50-50 without us even thinking about it. It's being handled by the platform. And I don't believe any other platform, Rockfin, Odyssey, Rumble, I don't think anybody else is doing this. So that is something
Mhm.
unique to their lane. And I want to, throw them some support and say, hey, cool. Check it out, and it'll be nice. It's always nice to have somebody, believe me. And that leads us into tonight. I stall because Viva and Barnes on Sidebar. A lot of my audience comes from Viva Fry, obviously, and I like to give people a chance to come over. Well, tonight they had Chris Pavlovsky of Rumble on. So
Hmm.
I think that our headline with the news might be, what does everybody think? Because Rumble and Locals merged. And within 3 weeks of that, Rumble said, "Oh, I'm going to go public." And a lot of people are saying, "Well, hell with it. I'm probably going to go yellow soon." Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Because there is definitely a worry about what's going to happen here. Because when we were talking about Locals, as an example, Locals is dependent on creators and people supporting creators completely. 100%. I go on there. Allison goes on there. We're on there, and people say, "Hey, we want to support Allison. We want to support Eric. We want to support America's Untold Stories." And then Locals gets a small piece of it, and everybody gets paid. But if you're a public company now, who's your boss? Is it the creators that are funding you, or is it the shareholders?
Hmm. Great point.
And this is a very legitimate question, and I'm just going by the chat and things like that, but I'm not sure that everybody's completely comfortable with it. And oh, somebody wanted to see my shirt. This one I think is a very appropriate.
I like that. That's good.
I'm going to have a whole wardrobe of anti censorship, big tech, things like that. And truthfully, I really don't care about many things, but free speech is probably my one hill to die on, so to speak. I
Yeah.
mean, that is my big thing. A lot of other things is like, ugh, what do you mean? Am I copying Emily? How dare you? How dare you? News with Booze is 100% Allison and Eric. Jeez.
What does Emily do?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Emily is she's a cool lawyer. I have her on panels. I've had her on the show, an
Does she
amazing
have a
friend.
drinking news show?
I don't think so. I think she does drink on Fridays or occasionally drinks on it. I mean, if
Oh.
anybody, you know what, if I was going to say anybody had the claim to drinking on their show, it'd have to be Nick Recato. And he
Somebody says
precedes
I look
everybody.
somebody says I look like I'm about to cry. I'm crying because someone else has a drinking show where they talk about the news. I have a resting bee face that beats pretty much anybody's out there. So I always look like I'm about to either punch someone or cry. That's just my relaxed face.
Okay. All right. Well, here we go. And I saw this in there. Okay. I just deleted Rumble. Guy was so, I'm guessing he's saying disingenuous. Um, okay. Here we go. She does the drinking and pop culture
Oh,
news. Okay. Well, I don't know. I like Emily. Emily's a friend. I mean, and Emily's actually been on News with Booze. So, in fairness, she's even been here.
I think she copied us.
I don't know. I don't know. I never want to say who was first
She
because
probably knows copyright law better than we do, but we wouldn't
exactly.
ask her
I am
opinion.
not going to get in an argument with any of my lawyers.
There were a couple people also asking about Sassy the horse. Can I give an update about Sassy the horse? So last week I was not on News with Booze because of my horse who nearly died. I'm not even exaggerating by saying the vet told me that she had a 10% chance of recovering. And I think he really thought she had like a 0.01% chance, but he didn't want to tell me that. And she appears to now be on the mend. I'm holding my breath because she's still not out of the woods yet. And she's older, so things could still turn, but she's dramatically better than what she was this time last week. So, you know what? I've tried, and I think it's becoming more natural to, instead of be paranoid about worrying what's going to happen tomorrow, to just be grateful every night when I go to sleep. Now I'm like, thank you for another day with my horse. Because these moments, like what I went through with my dog earlier in the year too,
Which,
where you're
by
in
the way,
that process.
that was a vet too, wasn't it?
What? So
Oh,
what
I
was
mean,
it?
you had some bad advice from a vet on
Yeah. Oh,
your
yeah.
dog
We
too.
don't
It's
even need to get. Yeah, we
ugh.
don't need to get into all that. But I will say, generally speaking, to everybody who has an animal, or you have a person, you are a person watching this, or you have a person, because I think the same thing goes for mainstream medicine, conventional medicine. Get a second and third opinion, and I'll just leave it there, because you may get advice on the first opinion that you cannot reverse after that. And let's just say that my horse might not be alive if I had listened, if I had just taken what I received as information and not questioned it. So question everything when it comes to health, and do your research, and get a second and third opinion. And you know what? A doctor who is not not all about ego and is more so just about answering patient questions. Same thing with a journalist who is not all about ego and is really about the facts. They will not be offended by someone asking questions and making sure that the ducks are in the row when it comes to making important decisions. So I leave it there. But yes, thank you everybody who's been asking about Sassy. She was born when I was 11, and she's 29 now. She'll be 29 in April. And it's old, but her pasture buddy from when we lived in Seattle is 39 years old. So just because she's 29 does not mean she has to go over to the pearly gates. And I have been fighting it would be an understatement to say that I have been researching with people around the world to try to save this horse. And I have done everything I possibly can to make sure I'm giving her the best shot. Because as I have said to people, she's carried my weight for 29 years. And so now it's my turn to carry hers. And Eric, last week on Wednesday, one of the reasons why I was just so exhausted and didn't come on News with Booze is because she had to be sedated for this procedure. And I had to hold her head up. And she's a 900-pound animal. And, it's like almost like I was cradling a baby. And I just looking at my horse just like sunk into my arms. And I'm thinking, well, I'm grateful for a hug, I'm like hugging my horse. She's not trying to get away or anything, but it was really tough to be there and watch her, this horse who has been part of my life for so long and so full of life, and, galloping on the trails, not even just a month ago, barely able to walk and just slumped into my arms. And it's just so good to see her walking around right now. So I'm just going to continue hoping for the best.
And okay, folks, keep this in mind. Allison is what, not even a day over 30, and this is 29 years of her life with this
Yeah,
horse.
I'm 40. So thank you though.
But you get the point. I mean, really, all of your life, as you remember, in many ways, has been with Sassy, right?
I have very few memories pre-Sassy. That's for sure. Yeah. She went to college with me. She went to college with me. She's been to all my reporting jobs with me. I literally moved her from Florida to Seattle in 2014. And we're lucky that the last year and a half we've had her actually on our property with us. And that was always a dream of mine because her whole life I boarded her somewhere else, so I'd have to drive. And this has been such a wonderful benefit of having her on the property because I can just walk out and and see how she's doing. I don't have to ask somebody else, and I can try all of these crazy things I've been trying. Like I ordered fermented herbal tonics from Australia. They came in the mail last week, and she's been on a week and a half, and I don't know if it can't be hurting. It's very healthy food. One of the things that we've been doing, and this I think is also another lesson for all humans too, is what's likely affecting her inflammatory response is sugar in her diet and
Mm.
trying to get her gut healthier and
We have
reduce
on
that
grains.
inflammatory. Say that again.
You have a lot of grains or
She's
something, or
off grain completely
okay,
now.
okay,
Yeah, she's
okay.
totally grain free now. And and so I tested my hay. I've been testing my hay to see which hay has less sugars in it. But I've also been giving her probiotics, and like I said, this 4 week long, it's fermented. These herbs are fermented for 4 weeks, and it's like if I were to go drink a bottle of sauerkraut every day, that's what I'm shooting up Sassy, like the brine, and so I tell you, I've learned that it never hurts. Whether we don't know exactly what's turned her around, but it never hurts to give your body its best chance at dealing with its own issues and not just always looking for a pill. Not to say that she's on medicine, don't get me wrong, but I've been trying to do both,
Hmm.
addressing the pain and what disease may be causing this problem, but also recognizing that her body needs to also have the best support possible to get back to homeostasis. And so I have done so much research on this topic. If you have a horse and you want to know any more, shoot me an email.
Okay, and we've got somebody in the chat who's super concerned about your money and horses. So let's clarify really quickly. Real Hydra or Hydro PX.
Mhm.
Horses are expensive. Allison has spent a lot of money on her horse, and it's a very serious concern to have the financial capability to pay the vet bill. But this is a member of her family that she loves.
I've never,
Allison's not rich, and I don't think the
no,
implication of it is polite, appropriate, or fair in any way. She's just trying to take care of a family member. So
my
kind of keep that in mind.
my horse costs less than a dog, honestly. Because of the way I don't put expensive shoes on her. But I've thrown a lot of, yeah, we've spent quite a lot of money trying to save her life, but I would say it was no more than what I spent on trying to save my dog's life earlier in the year. And
Hmm.
I don't regret that. So she's my, yeah, she's I'm not gonna like I think it's interesting. I wouldn't recommend getting a horse if you don't have any expendable income
Right.
whatsoever.
Well, you
But
need
I
property, you
saved.
need space. If you have to board a horse somewhere,
Yeah,
it
that all
adds up
costs a
very
lot of money.
quickly. Yes.
Exactly, like, she's on our property with us, we don't pay any board. I used to spend anywhere between $400 to $600 a month on board. That's why, like, I had a salary in Seattle, but the funny thing is I was making more money in that corporate news job than I ever made outside of it, and I was spending tons of money to live in a city that's really expensive. The rent's really expensive. I had to board my horse, and the great thing about quitting that job and getting the heck out of Seattle is that, yeah, now she's just right outside. So it's like we pay rent and she's here. She gets to be here
Right.
part of the rent. And When you have your own barn, you buy bulk and hay, so it's actually cheaper than dog food. And she doesn't, like I said, she doesn't have expensive shoes, and I don't, it's actually, if you do it smart, horses can be cheaper than having a dog. Now, if you got a board and you want to show, and then when they get
Yes.
sick, of course, it's
Or if you're
expensive.
racing
Depends on
them. I mean, my dad raised race horses. Then you have upper grains. You have to pay a trainer. You have to pay riders. You have to
all
have
that stuff.
groom. There's a
Well,
lot that can happen. But yeah,
and think about it too, like when they get sick, that's when it starts to get expensive, really, depending on how far you're willing to go with treatment. Because if a horse needs hospitalization, or they need to be treated like a dog has to go into the emergency room, that's very expensive for a horse. Okay.
Mhm.
So, but we made the decision last week, not just for financial reasons, but also because of Sassy's health, that we were not going to take her in. So we were like, she's here at her place, where she's at peace. And what we can do for her here, we're going to do, but we're not going to trailer her down to, Eastern Washington University for some experimental treatment that we dropped $50,000 on, or some ridiculous amount of money. She's going to stay here, live out her life. If we can help her here, that's what we're going to do.
I have no idea what you're saying. He's off of Viva Price.
Grooming experiences.
All right. Well, actually, to segue into actual news, what do you think about, you were talking about taking advice of medical professionals. A hot item in the news over the past couple days is that Dana White came down with that strange disease that's been floating around, and said that he consulted Dr. Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
And what are your thoughts on that? Because I know, or I feel in my heart, that there had to be some heads exploding when they heard that affirmation, or that statement, and the honorary title.
Sure. I think at some point, the more people who say publicly that they took advice from Rogan on COVID, it
Thank you
I
very
don't
much.
think,
I hide the word and you'll just come out.
yeah, I'm not going to say it, but it's not news anymore. So hopefully like the corporate news, it's like, oh my God, this person said that, this Joe Rogan, maybe they'll stop, because it's just like the more people just say, I was talking to him and this is what he told me to do. It's like, how many stories are they going to do about it? At some point, it starts to look like they're going to show their cards eventually, and it's going to be obvious that they have a thing for this guy. And if they keep doing that, right? So I think that, good for people for speaking up and saying, screw you, I'm going to talk about my connection to Joe Rogan. I don't care what mainstream media does about it. And maybe it won't be news anymore. It shouldn't be news. It's ridiculous that it's news.
Oh, I agree. And you actually sent this story to share right now. And I was actually surprised, because I was like, okay, does that mean things are changing? Is the tide turning a little bit? Trevor Noah came out with a statement about the South African variant, and saying, oh, wait a minute. What's going on here? You have something that's not super dangerous, not really a big problem, and you're saying you've got to have another medication? And I find it very interesting. I forgot where I saw it, but I was like, holy cow. The new variant supposedly has not killed anybody on the planet, unless something changed over the past day or so. I can't keep, up with everything, but I don't think anybody has died, and it's supposedly extremely weak. The O variant, if you will. And if that is the case, technically, wouldn't having a weak variant of a virus that people can conquer very quickly and build antibodies be a very effective tool for developing natural immunity to, say, other versions?
Maybe so. Don't you dare say that, Eric. I hope you didn't
I
say
didn't
that
say
live
that.
on
That was a
YouTube.
question. I just threw it out there. I would never, ever claim that.
Natural immunity is not a real thing anymore.
Please consult your doctor. I do say to everyone, please consult your doctor.
You
All
didn't say
caps.
natural immunity, so-called natural immunity. You're
Uh,
supposed to put it in quotes 'cause it's not a real thing. It's still a debated thing for 100 years.
okay, so called. Thank you, thank you. Are we yellow yet? Are we yellow? Yes, we're yellow. Boom! I managed to. I literally have been checking this the whole time. So,
You know,
ladies and
somebody talked
gentlemen,
to
hold on, hold that thought, Allison.
okay.
I'm sorry, people would be disappointed if I didn't.
That's okay. That's okay. Um, somebody said something about Trevor Noah being from South Africa. Maybe that's why he's resistant to this because I have
I think so.
seen people talking about the like I'm not in South Africa right now, so what do I know? It is one of the only countries I've been to outside of Europe, outside the United States. But I don't know what it's like there right now. But I feel like I've heard talk that they feel snubbed by the rest of the world for discovering this or for putting it out there, letting people know. And then now it's like nobody can go to South Africa. And they're getting the short end of the stick on that. So maybe he's got connections there and they're all feeling like the world is bullying them. And now he has a different perspective. I don't know.
Well, and yeah, it could be. I mean, it could be that whole. He may feel the same way as Trump said China virus, and I understand that.
Hmm.
I do not. I don't think South Africa is a is doing great necessarily. I have some friends who are there, and there are challenges in South Africa.
That's an understatement.
Well, I'm not. I don't want to crit. I don't need to be picking on anybody. I'm just saying there are challenges, and I'm sure they're like, okay, we do not need another challenge. We don't need another statement. I get that, but the point's still there. He generally lands on the side of dancing syringes, like
Right.
Stephen Colbert, and it is refreshing. I think there's nuance, and we've lost a lot of nuance, and maybe we're finding our way back to a little bit of nuance.
I just I just can't believe the replies to his tweet where he shared the video. How many people considered what he was saying as anti-vax. I just man, we are it's just
That's
it's like the brainwashing is almost complete. It's just almost irrevocable at this point. And you would hear someone say, I'm going to wait for public health officials versus the pharmaceutical company to see what they think about this topic. That's anti-vax. That's crazy because somebody like me would say, I don't even know if I trust the public health officials anymore because of how politically charged this entire episode has been. So I'm way off the deep end now. All he did was question Moderna. I
I
mean,
have
and he gets called anti-vax.
I have multiple problems with that. First off, anti-vax is a wide term. Now, I was in the army. I have all kinds of vaccines. I was vaccinated against the plague. Okay? The plague. Ain't been around for hundreds of years, but I got a vaccine for it. Okay. I've got lots of vaxes. I have a whole variety of vaxes. So that makes me anti-vax. And here's my other question. And this is my analogy. I know Viva Fry doesn't like analogies, but I throw this one out there. Allison, do you like liver?
Liver.
Yeah.
I mean, I force myself to eat it in pate because it's really good for you if it comes from a healthy animal, but I don't really like it.
Okay. And most people will say, no, I can't stand it, right? And they're not going to eat it. So I would call them a vegan.
Right. Yeah,
This is the
that's a
same
good point.
principle, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so if
Except liver
somebody
is good
does
for you. No, I'm just kidding. Oh god, they're all gonna come after me now.
there
They're
you
all gonna
go.
come after
Well,
me
okay,
now.
it'll never get monetized. Great. I was talking no,
Sorry. I was
seriously though,
joking.
as an analogy though, because you don't eat one thing does not mean that you are anti that. If you don't eat one kind of meat, that doesn't mean you're a vegan. If somebody doesn't agree with one particular medication, that does not. Good point. That's a mic drop. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
that's
like
pretty
liver?
good.
on News with Booze. Well, the
We're
real
not
Baboon
gonna
goes,
eat our liver. We're gonna eat the liver of something that didn't drink alcohol and watch our show.
yes, and everybody's asking what I'm drinking. It's my Raging Bitch, and no, I haven't had that many. I'm just annoyed.
Oh,
today.
another person. Yeah, another person asking about the horse. The horse is good. Rewind the video. Rewind the video. I'm drinking my non-alcoholic beer. If you guys like, if anyone out there likes non-alcoholic, this is a great brand. I should score them as a sponsor, but
Yeah,
it's Athletic Brewing Company. They have many different kinds. It's not as good as alcoholic beer, but it's pretty close. And having been pregnant and looking for non-alcoholic alternatives, I have definitely sampled what's out there, and this is the best there is.
he's not a fan, but
Of Athletic Brewing, really?
maybe.
How did
I don't know.
you
But
get that out there?
by the way, folks, on this note, I'm perfectly fine. Everybody's perfectly fine. If you're drinking coffee or water or anything else,
Yeah,
News
no one
with
cares.
Booze is mostly about attitude and rhyming. It's not about, oh, everybody's got a drink.
Yeah,
It's more of the attitude that we're not super serious. We might go and get sidetracked and talk about a horse for 15 minutes.
yeah. Sorry.
We No, it's fine. It is not a big deal if you don't drink. We really want to have everybody enjoying the show and having a
Yeah.
good thing.
Plus, I'm drinking NA, and the reason is
Okay,
because
Hannibal is joining.
Go ahead.
Hannibal Lecter has just joined the conversation.
Oh,
Will you have baba beans with your liver?
Eric, I have to run soon. Do you want to do one last quick story before I go?
Yes. Well, okay.
I'm not having a
before you-
baby. Someone thinks I was saying I'm having a baby. I was pregnant.
Yes.
I was looking for beer. I'm not pregnant anymore.
So we'll leave it at that. I wanted to talk to you about your thoughts on Rumble because that's floated in there and locals. We're both on locals. You're not on Rumble yet that I know of, but what do you think? Because I think you're on Rockfin. I don't know if you're on Odyssey. I think you're on Odyssey.
I'm on Odyssey. I'm on Rockfin. I'm on locals. I'm not on. I keep needing to sign up on Rumble. It's just been such a crazy couple of weeks. What are my thoughts about Rumble before I go? Is that what you want me to say?
Yeah. Let's talk about just for a minute before we go, because I think that this merger, and as a creator, we're talking to people directly, because this is affecting everybody. And I don't know about you, but I feel, I don't want to say guilty, but I do feel I want to provide a value to people who are donating money to me. And I want to be as open and honest as humanly possible. Be it $1, be it $5, be it whatever. This is money. And I'm already super thankful for people giving time.
Yeah.
Giving money's even more. And by the way, Ziggy Shrug, yes, Utreon does have an app, and it is pretty good. I think it's stronger than Rumble's, actually, off the record, as I say it in public.
I guess at this point, I think it's, if you can, time-wise, for those of us who are creators, be where the audience is, and then let's just watch and see which one rises to the top to be the winner, or which ones, maybe it's multiple. I'm just trying to diversify because, well, on some level, the platforms have different personalities and bring a different type of content and different interaction with the audience. So what I do on Rockfin, even though the videos are similar, I don't do on locals, and it's different. It's like, and YouTube's different too. It's all, I look at it very differently, and the community that I have on locals is kind of different than the Rockfin one, and I'm sure Rumble is similar. And so you can have even different experiences with different audiences, and if they're already there, it's just trying to make it as easy as possible for the user experience. But sure. That said, you do have to have time, because like for somebody like me, it does start to get tough to be on all the different platforms if I have to upload and do all this stuff, and I'm still trying to figure out how to streamline that process.
No, I agree. And I will say that for creators who care, I can auto sync with Rumble. Auto sync with Rumble now. I figure that that's available. And Utreon and Odyssey. I talked to Rockfin, but I'm not on there. It is very difficult for us. And when we're talking about splitting time, it's not just a matter of, oh, we don't have time to deal with the different platforms. It's also a matter of caring for audience who's on a platform.
Mhm.
Like, if I'm splitting my time in different places, I'm already feeling like I wish I could give you more time. I wish I could do more on
Yeah.
locals or more on this or that. And so every time I jump somewhere else or do something else, I'm cutting into time that I feel like you deserve by supporting me. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're entrepreneurs, I guess. We're running a business, but it's also a business that I think people expect a level of authenticity and transparency, and so you can't like cut corners and just become like a factory, because I don't think that works. It may be, that you could have templates and all this other stuff in corporate news. When I was in corporate news, it's like, this is the every before you even came in the morning, the 5 o'clock news rundown, it all looked exactly the same. That we have 5 stories, it's 8 minutes long, break one happens here, the B block is like this. It's all this. You're just filling in the template, and that doesn't really work when you're doing the new media thing, and especially when you're on different platforms. You're trying to customize it for something that's authentic for you, but also works for the audience, and not just chase the business. If it was just about making money, obviously there are people out there that are doing quite well at that. But I think for us, we're trying to make it sustainable. So yeah, the finances are definitely a part of it, but holding true to integrity and the authenticity of what this allows us to do, because this gives me anyway a much
Mhm.
wider freedom to be myself than I was given in corporate news. So I don't want to go back to just being a peanut factory. So on that note, I gotta go medicate my horse and give her the herbal tonic from Australia. So everybody be good to Eric while I'm gone.
That's an order from Allison. So you have to listen to that.
I'll see you next week.
See you folks. All right. So did I watch it? I watched parts of it, Ramble Gamble, and I will probably catch the rest of it tomorrow. I don't know if everybody knows this. I mean, I think it's been pretty clear that I'm friends with David Freiheit, aka Viva Fry, and not only a friend, and work with him. I convert his episodes into his podcast that goes out for everyone and downloads the video for other purpose and things like that. So I talk to David a lot, and so while I may not catch something live or not, I do usually catch everything that's going on, and I'm a huge admirer. I joke that in a lot of ways in the whole YouTube and podcasting world, I come from the podcasting world, if you will, but I feel like there's almost like suns, if you will, are big ass planets and then like moons that are surrounding them. And I would say that Viva Fry is, he's a bit of a sun or a moon, and I'm in his orbit. And I'm also podcasting wise, I'm like in a couple degrees of separation of the Joe Rogan orbit from the way that show was established. And it's a weird thing. And then, certain planets are, as they get bigger or whatever, then other things may get inside of their orbit or whatever, as people or platforms grow or creators grow. And I think that everybody should know, from where they come, and be very thankful and honorable to essentially the creators who came before us and the people who are coming after us, and even more importantly the audience, because that's you who are watching. That's all that really matters, truthfully. I mean, everything else is kind of a deal. And I say that, and that almost sounds like a trite remark, but it is something as a creator that I actually have come to find out firsthand, because I am nobody special. I'm no great talent. I am no, superstar. I've got a face for radio. That's why I did a podcast. I didn't want to put my name out there, so I was unstructured, so I wouldn't hide. I wouldn't have to put my face out there because I am not naturally a person who likes to be out there. But that affects things. So early on my podcast, I started in March of 2018, March 15th. If anybody's interested, there's a little bit of weird history. We got some time. And I agree, Ziggy. My audience is fantastic. And you're a fantastic member of them. Thank you very much. Early on, I was just trying to get anybody on the show. I was so happy to talk to just some interesting people. The whole reason I have a show of any kind is because I'm a voracious reader. My wife is the library director of Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. I met my wife in the library. Okay. I am a nerd. I am a reader. I like different subjects. So, we have a running joke with the wife, and maybe it's kind of cheesy, but we always joke that I went to the library and I checked her out. But hey, I'm proud of that. I'm super honored to have my wife, who I've been with for almost 25 years, and that's pretty awesome. But when I got into this game, it was after figuring out, well, what do I want to do? I always kind of wanted to do a podcast, wanted to do this stuff. Originally, I was going to try to do a show about Apple products, but everybody did an Apple product show, and they're all much better than what I would do. I mean, John Gruber of Daring Fireball, Dan Benjamin, this goes way back. Leo Laporte. I actually watched Leo Laporte on a show that was on a network called ZDTV in the 90s. And Tyler's, yes, I am not returning that book. No, I am not. I checked that out, and it is, I'll just keep paying the late fees, I guess. Anyway, and CNET, and then the podcast, and I follow it. So I was like, oh, I'll do an Apple podcast, and I just never really did it. It was like, oh, who's going to listen to me? Who am I? I'm nobody. So then I got into running. I'm seriously out of shape right now, but I got into running, went all the way to some marathons and stuff. And I was going to do a podcast about that. And that was my first appearances on podcasts as a guest, because I lost a lot of weight and I did lots of running. So I got on some shows. I was still so shy. I mean, it's weird, but I really did not feel the confidence to come on and talk. And I'm talking to any of you who want to do a show, because I think this is important. I'm no Joe Rogan, but one thing Joe Rogan does is everybody who's coming on that he finds interesting, he says, hey, you need to start a podcast. No, I was not Jared. I like adults. Thank you. Anyway, I want to encourage anybody to literally do a show. If you have a voice, you have a message, or anything else, definitely go out there and do a show. I think that is freaking fantastic. But I didn't. And my way of handling it was, oh, I need to go buy a microphone. Oh, I need to get a better soundboard. Oh, I need to do, all these little barriers. Like, I need to get this, I got to get that, I got to do this, I got to do that. And every time I go throw some money in it, or buy another piece of equipment, buy a course, watch some videos, do whatever, guess what I wasn't doing? I wasn't actually freaking creating. So I finally was part of a group. And when I say that I'm a couple degrees away from Joe Rogan, I exist because of a guest on Joe Rogan who pissed Sam Harris off. Which over time, I'm kind of glad. because Sam Harris is kind of a dick. Sorry. All Sam Harris fans that I'm losing right now. Good job. No, I mean, cool. I'm glad you like him, but he's not my cup of tea. So I was watching though, and he was complaining about this guy, Hunter Motz. How Hunter Motz had just said a lot of things about him, and I don't know why. I'm just I'm curious. Okay, when I was training for running, I would read Malcolm Gladwell, Freakonomics, all these other authors, whatever, and I would just listen to their books and things like that. So it's like, who the hell? Who's Hunter Motz? So okay, I went went looking him up. Hunter Motz actually was the partner to Brian Callen. Brian Callen is supposedly Joe Rogan's oldest best friend, except Joe Rogan doesn't talk about him anymore because he got into some trouble of the Me Too variety. So, well, I guess Joe Rogan's no longer a friend because he just never says his name. It's very weird. But regardless, at this time, and we're talking 2014, 2015, whatever it is, he was talking to him and he brought his partner on because his partner for the show Mixed Mental Arts was Hunter Motz. And Hunter Motz is a really fascinating character who grew up like Brian Callen. Has anybody ever heard of Confessions of an Economic Hitman? The reason I'm bringing that up is because Brian Callen's father was an economist and an economic hitman, and so was Hunter Mott's father. So the two, they kind of grew up together. Callen is older, but he was like a surrogate older brother to Hunter Motz. And Hunter Motz is well, he's pretty bright guy. Really bright guy. Thank you, Talix. Viva is a diva. Oh, how dare you? How dare you? He's not a diva. Oh my God! If I screenshot this and I send it to him, you would send his neuroses and anxiety to. Anyway, no, he's not. Anyway, Hunter Motz is a very sharp dude, and he actually went to school with the two princes. And one of his more awkward moments in life was having to, shall we say, discipline Prince Harry, as a kid. They went to the same high school. So he's a very interesting character. I don't agree with everything that Hunter does, but he's a brilliant guy. He was an understudy to the one of the two people who broke the genetic code. And he ran the Mixed Mental Arts Facebook group and was also on the show. And I kind of became friends with him. And when I say friends, we'll put it in scare quotes, okay? Because it's Facebook friends. I had a couple phone calls. So, I mean, we did talk a lot and I could tag him, he'd answer and all that stuff. But I'm not going to say that, we're deep personal friends. We haven't talked for a long time. But regardless, he was in that group and a lot of other people were in the group. And I was like, oh my God, because on their show, Mixed Mental Arts, they interviewed all these artists. And I'm reading the chat at the same time. All these authors. And yes, Ziggy is an artist. She did a wonderful piece of work. And shamefully, I have not had time to put it up. So I can show it. This is from the illustrious Ziggy Shrugged. I will somehow get it up over the holidays. I'm really honored that somebody did that for me, and I think Ziggy will confirm. I've shown it on many shows. So please pause, look back. But I mean, it is amazing work, and I'm super stoked and honored to have somebody do that. I'm blown away, quite frankly. I don't even know how to respond to that. So back to the Hunter. Okay. Mixed Mental Arts, Hunter Motz, Mixed Mental Arts, the show. They interviewed Jonathan Haidt and um, all these authors, and they're not popping in my head right now, but I mean, it was all these great intellectual authors that I just loved. And I might go, running, I would listen to them, and I was reading these books, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are amazing, amazing stories. But in the group, I guess I'm used to this, but essentially, when I grew up, I was the poorest kid in a very rich school. I don't know if you saw a couple weeks back that on Sidebar, they had somebody on who is running for Senate in Arizona, and they were talking about the Catalina foothills of Tucson, Arizona, and the liberal paper that he wrote when he was a kid and all that. And I was having like, almost PTSD flashbacks. But anyway, I grew up in this highly, highly liberal, extremely rich area. All the money in town went to school with me. And it's pretty much defunct now, but my shoes came from Kmart, okay? There were a lot of little jokes, about how do you know when somebody's stealing from a Kmart? Well, they can't walk too fast because the shoes are tied together, little strands between. And that's the stuff that I got. Okay. I grew up raising goats. I milked up to 20 a day myself, twice a day. So before going to school, milking a goat. Not a thrilling deal. I love them very dearly. I love animals, but still very, very frustrating. And honestly, they lay in dirt, they lay in hay, and I smelled. So didn't get me on very well. So that was a very, very hard thing. And I was used to being the kid who did not fit in, who did not do well with a lot of others. And later on, I figured out a way how to game the system if anybody's interested. If they have kids who don't feel like they're fitting in, how do you get around it? And I learned that all the rich people I grew up with also donated to the Goodwills that were in the area. And so I could buy more modern brand clothes from Goodwill. And because it was Goodwill, they were more worn because they would never actually wear it completely out to us threadbare. I didn't have time for that. So I would buy that. And by buying those clothes, I could pretend that it was just part of my wardrobe because they're worn, right? I mean, it's just stuff I wear all the time, right? Like I could just go buy it or whatever. So that was kind of my an early hack in life, if you will, to fit in. So I would just use that and get the clothes and it just slide under the radar. Now I am oh god. Always be careful when Talix is in the chat. I would literally do that, but I'm using this to come around in a slow way to a point. And that is that I understand what it's like to feel dumb, to feel stinky, to feel put out, to feel bullied, to feel all of that in every way. And when I was in with this group, and I'm not saying that they are doing this naturally, because honestly, there are folks in there who are just so hyper intellectual. And I don't want to talk about any conditions or anything else like that, but there are people who can get very, very pedantic in what they're doing and so detail oriented and so overly intellectual that it can almost become oppressive. And I felt, I was a dumb person in the group. And I felt like, hey, okay, everybody here, you're all smarter than me, whatever. I want to talk to these authors and these cool people and this audience. And I want to just ask questions like, like me. I'm a normal dude, not that, yeah, whatever, middle night, whatever. I want to be able to ask questions that are meaningful to me and not have a competition with everybody around me saying, "Oh, I've got the smartest, best ever question or whatever." I just want to ask genuine questions I really want to freaking learn. So my aspect of the show, and I've talked about this before some, so if it's a repeat, I apologize, folks. I I don't have that much life out there, so I don't, I may repeat things. But the basic premise of the show was Idea Pub. Like, I want to go in like I'm meeting up with this author or this person and I'm having a beer. News with booze isn't that big stretch for me. And they say they do fill in the blank. They work in the behavioral science unit of the FBI. You do what? Whoa. How does that work? What do you do? Oh, but what if you run into this person? What if you do that? And that's what I wanted. And my thought was that if I could be do that and ask the questions, and there have to be, what is it in China, if you're one in a million, that means there's many thousands of people just like you. It's like, okay, well, if I satisfy myself, there's enough people like me that they may enjoy it as well. So focus on getting them for myself. That was my goal. But I will say that, especially early on, and this is a huge reach back now, early on, I was so honored to have anybody as a guest with me. Oh my, that I was busy sucking up to the guest and trying to get them to, enjoy it or whatever and impress them. And I didn't realize, well, it's really not about them. It's about people who are listening. So, in my long, meandering way, essentially, I think I'm boring people out of this. So, I'll definitely move on here. In my own crazy, meandering way, I learned, hey, please the audience. And as I see the chat starting to drift off, I will go back and I should probably do a story. So let's say this is one I actually had pulled up from earlier, which I thought was crazy. Well, it's got from Unstructured Eric's Pub. Okay, I'll go one more story on this. Unstructured was kind of influenced by Thaddeus Russell. Thaddeus Russell does a show called Unregistered. I know him through Mixed Mental Arts, things like that. He also was a historian. He writes kind of contrarian history, things that are against. Thank you, Silver Iron Bar. Um, and yes, I agree. Anyone with empathy can keep listeners and recognize that each listener could teach something. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, he's a contrarian and he will come up with stories or whatever that go completely against history. He actually wrote the Renegade's History of the United States with controversial things talking about how the colonials, they had a giant problem because a lot of the people would run off and they go, quote, native, and they would run with the Indians because they were like, hey, life is better, it's free, it's fun. And he did shows like that. So that was sort of influential because he was doing a podcast and okay. Story out of the drag queen. I will not be in drag. Goodness. Wow. Oh, you know what? I think everybody's leaving because of Joe Neerman. Just to let everybody know, Joe Neerman is covering the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And I totally understand if everybody's heading out. I'm actually going to try to wrap up soon because I don't want to step on his time too much. So I actually finished with the story. Unregistered is his show. I was trying to come up with a new show, and I don't know. How dare you? Don't question my identity. A new show, but I wanted it to be in the structure of the pub and things like that. So essentially, his show is a premise of getting really deep conversations that nobody's ever had before. And he called it Unregistered. And he kind of themed it on AA, or Alcoholics Anonymous, because he'd be very open and honest and forthcoming. I decided to do something like that. So I did unstructured, as in, I don't know what I'm going to say or do, or what kind of conversation I am going to have. So why not go ahead and call it unstructured? And that is, if you will, the premise of this show. And Talix, you are right. I think there you go. I think Talix definitely deserves a wrench, and everybody there, that wraps it up. I'm watching the numbers plummet. That is telling me that folks want to run, and I think that's a good idea. Go to Joe, check out Good Logic, Lawgic, and as he will say, Gold Speed. Have a wonderful evening. I will be back tomorrow with the quartering, and I will be back again Friday with a panel with Joe Neerman, Good Logic, checking in on the whole, the Ghislaine trial, whatever you want to say. And I will be back again with Mark Robert for the next installment of Alec Baldwin. And guess what? There's more to drop. There's a new connection. Mark is part of the story. So, everybody, have a freaking fantastic, outstanding, wonderful evening.